All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining our call. My name is Samantha Church, and I am the Executive Director of Manna Project International, and I'll be going through a little bit of background information about our organization, and then I'm going to turn the call over to two of our program directors who are on site. Carly is a Senior Program Director, and she's at our Ecuador site, and Heidi, who is also on the call, is a Program Director at our Nicaragua site. We also have our Director of Finance and Administration on the phone today, Haley Smith. So to dive right in and give a little bit of background about Manna Project, the organization started with a small group of volunteers who had decided that they wanted to serve internationally, but they couldn't find an organization that met the needs that they wanted. So they decided to go together as a group, and they wound up going to Nicaragua based on a connection that they had there, and started the nonprofit from there. And to go into a little bit more detail about what we do, our mission is to foster communities of talented young leaders to become the next generation of social change agents by engaging in collaborative, on-the-ground service with international communities in need. So everything we do at Manna is based on communities and engaging with communities. So our ultimate vision for the organization is to break the cycle of poverty in the communities that we serve. So that small group of 11 people who started the organization has really grown into a large community. It is now a community of more than 12,000 people, and that community includes our staff, our volunteers, our alumni network, our donors, as well as people on the ground at our sites. So our organization started in 2004 as a nonprofit. And every year, we are impacting close to 5,000 lives at our sites. So all the programs that we have on site, we're reaching more than 5,000 lives annually. And our program directors and volunteers give 35,000 hours annually. So that's pretty huge time commitment to give to the communities that we're in. So expanding upon our mission and our vision a little bit more, our organizational pillars are really the backbone of what we do at Manna. So our first approach in our organizational pillars is a holistic approach. So we work with a number of different programs and community partners on site to invest in education, health, and livelihood projects. So we're not just doing one program or working with one community partner. We're working on multiple different programs with multiple different community partners at each site. Our next pillar is a community approach. So at Manna Project, we work with specific communities on site, and our focus is on building relationships. So throughout the history of Manna, in both of our sites, we have stayed with the same community to really develop strong relationships on the ground. And our third pillar is leadership development. So our program directors and our volunteers that come through our programs, our goal is really to help them develop leadership skills to help them with future career and life goals. All right, so on the ground, I had mentioned before that we serve about 5,000 folks annually, and those are the direct beneficiaries of our work on the ground. We do that through, in our last program year, we did that through 23 program directors. So those are our long-term volunteers on site. We had 153 shorter-term volunteers. We had 95 local staff and volunteers help out with our programs. we had 867 donors contributing to the work that we do, and we had 30 community programs running in the last year. So I mentioned about our program directors, and I also mentioned about our short-term volunteers that help us on sites. And there's sort of 3 different categories of those volunteers. The first group are site visits. So we have folks that come down for spring break and fall trips. And those are teams basically that come down, and they kind of range from 8 to 12 participants per team. And that's usually just about a week trip. And then we have shorter term positions that are summer internships that can last from 4 to 8 weeks. And then we have our longer term volunteer opportunities, which we call our program director position. And at each of our sites at full capacity, we have 12 program directors. All right, so diving a little bit more into the program director position itself, we have opportunities that range from 5 to 13 months. So we've got the 5-month, 7-month, 11-month, and 13-month positions. And then I keep mentioning over and over our on-the-ground sites. And those sites are in Nicaragua and Ecuador. Our program directors live and work together. So we have housing at each site for our program directors. As a program director, you develop and lead programs of interest, as well as you develop and lead programs, as well as sort of assess the need that's happening on site. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but again, our programs focus on health, education, and livelihood. And then we also have the opportunity for our volunteer program directors to work on organizational roles with our US-based staff to help build work experience. All right, so why would you become a program director with Manna Project? So some of the benefits are that we equip our volunteers with organizational and leadership development skills for a variety of career fields. You can see the ones that are listed on our screen. And a really neat thing to see about how the program director experience can shape your life is if you have a chance to go to our website, mannaproject.org/alumni, you can see the alumni network from all the people who've done Manna over the years and where they are in their lives and their careers. And it's pretty great to see the vibrant alumni network we have and how impactful the Manna Project experience was on their lives and for their future careers. So at this point, that's a little bit of background information about our organization, and I'm going to turn it over to Carly, who's actually on site at our Ecuador site, and she's going to give you a better understanding and background of our organization there.
Hi. Hi, I'm Carly. I am currently at the Manna Project international site in Ecuador. I'm a senior program director, so basically what that position is after you complete your program director term, whether that's for 5 months or 7 months or 13 months, like if you are interested in staying on with Manna, you can extend your contract. So that's what I chose to do. So I've been in Ecuador now for 2 years, which I don't know, I feel like it's kind of flown by even though it's been 2 years. So a little bit about why I decided to join Manna Project and why I decided to come to Ecuador. When I graduated, I knew that I was interested in working in international development in Latin America. And I had studied Spanish in college and was looking for an opportunity to go abroad and gain very practical, like real experience working in international development on the ground. So I found out about Manna Project through a friend who had done a summer internship here in Ecuador, and she was just raving about it. So I decided to check Manna Project out online, and through all my research, I was just really impressed by the opportunities for professional development that Manna Project gives in comparison to other positions that I was looking at. I didn't really have experience to be anything other than like an administrative assistant, and I at that time really wanted like practical experience, and Manna is a really unique organization in that it gives you that experience right, and that leadership experience right out of college. So that's what attracted me to Manna Project originally. Here in Ecuador, I've been involved in a ton of different programs that we offer. Just to touch on a few of them, as you can see on your screen, we have a bunch of different programs that, as Sam mentioned, range from health and education and livelihoods categories. So just to touch on a few, I've been involved this year in our programs for the Education Global Access Program, which is an organization in the United States that we partner with to offer entrepreneurship classes in the community. It's been a really incredible experience. I've been teaching job search skills and small business development skills to people here on the ground that are looking to open a business for the first time. It's been really great to be working with people and to see their ideas grow from just ideas to actual businesses that they're starting and ideas that they're implementing. So that's been really great and encouraging. Another program that we have here on site is what we call the Preventive Health program. Here it's listed as Preventive Health Center. It's a really incredible program that we have that allows us to partner with different health organizations here on site in Ecuador. One of those organizations that we partner with is the Sangolquí Hospital. Sangolquí is the town where the town in the Los Chios Valley where Manna Project is based. And we work with different doctors there, especially one who is leading a diabetes club. Diabetes is a growing issue in Ecuador, and a lot of people don't have access to insulin or kind of like the medicine that they need to help put their condition under control. Because of that, there needs to be a huge focus on diet and exercise to help control their condition. So we work with a lot of individuals that have diabetes and kind of give them information about healthy recipes and healthy eating that they can do at home with local ingredients. And we also work with them to help them develop exercise plans, starting slow and then growing. So that's a really great opportunity for program directors that are interested in health fields because it's really hands-on experience. Additionally, one of my favorite programs that we have on site is the Library and Community Center. So I think that that's probably the greatest resource that we offer on site in Ecuador to our community members. We have a community center and library located in the community of Ruby Loma, and it's actually really unique because in Ecuador it's extremely uncommon to be able to go to a library and check out a book and take it home with you. That's almost unheard of, but it's something that we offer at our library, and it's an important way, I think, to encourage members of the community to, for example, parents to be reading to their children, or children to start to fall in love with reading outside of school. It's not as common as it is in the United States to just read for fun. So I think that that's a great resource that Manna can provide. Our community center also hosts the majority of our programs, and it's a great safe space within the community where families can gain like educational resources that they might not have access to, or health resources or livelihoods resources. And as a program director, it's also an extremely valuable experience to be present in the community center because it's a center kind of for like interaction with community members. It's a space where as you spend time there, you'll get to know them really well. So I've really valued that about my time with Manna Project. I've had so many incredible experiences working as a program director, but one that just really stands out to me, it's very fresh in my mind, is last Saturday at our community center, we had a party that we call a Bienvenida Despedida. So that's like a welcome to the new program directors that just arrived, and then also a goodbye to the outgoing program directors. So it was a really positive experience because I got to see all of the community members that have really just been so integral in making my time here just incredible. One of my kind of dear friends, Alexandra, I got to talk with her for a really long time, and I hadn't seen her in a while, so it was great to hear about everything that's going on with her. She's looking to travel to the United States soon, so we were talking about meeting up there in the United States at some point in time. Some of my English students I got to see and talk to, which was really incredible. There's this wonderful woman who's the grandmother of an English student that we have, who every time I see her, she's just so excited to see me and wants to know what's going on, and just it was a really great experience at the Bienvenida Despedida to get to see everyone and talk with all of the community members that I've gotten to know over the past 2 years. So it was a really, really positive experience and one that I will definitely miss. Some facts about the community that we work in and Ecuador in general. As I mentioned, we work in the community of Sangolquí in the Los Chios Valley. So that's about a 35 to 40-minute bus ride outside of Quito, the capital city. And it's a really great community. It's kind of a mix between some rural aspects, some suburban aspects, and then just like a small city. But also being really close to Quito is a great experience for program directors because Quito is an incredible city. Pretty much every year it's like ranked by like travel magazines and books and things as like a highlight in South America. It's an incredible city with a ton going on, different restaurants and like plays and movies and things. So I really enjoyed getting to know Quito during my time living just outside of it here with Manna. Ecuador is also an incredible country in general in terms of travel. It's divided into 4 distinct regions. So we have the Amazon rainforest, the Sierra, which is like the mountainous region where we are here at Manna. The coast, which is beautiful. It has some of like the best beaches in all of South America. And then also the Galapagos Islands. So there's a ton to do, a ton to see. As a country, Ecuador is only about the size of Colorado, but within it, there's so much potential to travel that it's really just a huge benefit to program directors because in your time as a program director, you'll get to know all of those distinct regions, and it's a really great way to get to know some really interesting places in South America. Beyond just traveling, I think one of the major benefits of being a program director is the amount of time that you'll get to spend in the community. When I was considering what to do after graduating college before choosing Manna, I was looking at different jobs and I wanted to be in South America, but I wasn't really sure in what capacity. And I was just seeing a lot of like office jobs, like working in South America, but just inside of an office for the whole day. And that wasn't really something I was interested in. In Manna, you get to spend so much time directly interacting with community members. It's a really great opportunity to practice and perfect your Spanish. Even if you come to Manna Project not knowing hardly anything, the time that you spend as a program director working with community members will really give you the opportunity to practice your Spanish and even achieve fluency within your 13 months as a program director if that's the term that you choose to, or the period of time that you choose to spend with Manna. It's really great. Community members, since we've been on on site here in Ecuador for the past several years. Manna's been present in the community. Everyone in the community knows us. They really enjoy getting to know us and welcoming them into their community, into their country. It's a great way to try Ecuadorian food, which I think is amazing. When people invite you over to their house. I've been invited over, for example, to learn how to cook Ecuadorian food before, which is amazing. Yeah, I think that probably out of all of the things I'll be taking away from Manna, just time in the community has been a really valuable one. To getting to know people and getting to speak Spanish and getting to know like the personal side of Ecuador.
Great. Thanks so much, Carly, for all the insight into what's happening on the ground in Ecuador. So before we turn it over to Heidi at our Nicaragua site, I just wanted to pause and see if there's any questions so far. So there is a chat feature on the bottom of your screen. So if you want to ask any questions right now, we'll take a couple minutes to answer those before we move forward to our Nicaragua site. And I will ask Haley if there are any questions in the chat feature, if you could read them out, and then we'll respond to them.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley. I am the Director of Finance and Administration for Manna. And we have had a couple questions come in already. And I actually think, Sam, you'll be a great person to answer the first one. And if anyone else wants to give any input, they can feel free. The first question is, how does Manna compare with the Peace Corps model? Do the volunteers get paid for their living expenses, or how does that work out?
Sure. So I will respond to that one. I actually myself was a Peace Corps volunteer in the Philippines, so I'm pretty familiar with the Peace Corps model. So I think that there's benefits to both programs, of course, and I love my Peace Corps experience. But I think the thing that sets Manna apart is that you're able to do shorter term projects. So you can do the 5 months, you can do 7, 11, 13 months, whereas Peace Corps you have to commit to 27 months. Another big difference is that, like I had mentioned earlier, our focus really is on specific communities. So all of our volunteers are living together in one community. So Peace Corps volunteers are kind of separated out. They live on their own. But with Manna, everybody's living together in a house and working together on programs. And in terms of getting paid for living expenses, I will go more into that in a little bit, but I can briefly go over that now. We require our volunteers to raise funding. So, and I can go over what our funding covers, but we do have support systems in place to help our volunteers fundraise. So there's different scholarship programs that are out there and platforms to raise funding for.
All right, and as Sam said, we'll kind of go more into the fundraising that's required for the position a little bit later. Just one more quick question, and then we can dive into the Nicaragua site for all those that are interested in that site. What level Spanish did you start with when you got to your site, and how have your Spanish skills improved?
Yeah, sure. It's Carly again. So when I arrived here in Ecuador, so I majored in Spanish in college. I was, I'd say, like high conversational level, but at the same time, I also kind of was nervous when I started speaking to people. I was nervous about making a grammatical error and sounding like very silly or something like that. So that was kind of what I had to overcome at the beginning, was like just saying, okay, I have to speak Spanish. It doesn't matter if I'm going to make a mistake. People here are extremely kind, and they really go out of their way to understand you if you're trying to explain what a word is that you don't know. So yeah, I came in with, I'd say out of my group of program directors, the highest level of Spanish out of all of them. But for example, one of the program directors that I was working with last year, when he started with Manna, he didn't know hardly any Spanish. He could say like hola, and that was about it. And by the end, he was like very highly conversational as well. It definitely, I'd say, is something that you need to prioritize during your time as a program director. If you want to just speak English with other program directors, that's something that you can do. But if you want to go out of your way to speak only Spanish and interact with community members as much as possible, it's definitely possible to go from little to no Spanish to near fluency in your time as program director. It just depends on how much time you're willing to spend kind of like looking over grammar notes, but also then interacting with community members.
All right. And Heidi, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that before diving into the NICA specifics?
Yes, well, I can actually speak to the question about, you know, the level of Spanish coming in. I'm Heidi. I'm a Nicaragua 7-month program director, and I actually came in January with little to no Spanish at all. So it was a really interesting experience. I had no formal education. I'd never taken a Spanish class. So I came in as one of the lower level Spanish speakers among my program director group. So I found it to be a really rewarding experience, just getting to know people in the community and through that, improving my Spanish. You know, we do get a little bit of formal training coming in, but the vast majority of my improvement with my Spanish has been through just being in the community and putting myself out there. I think for some people might be the idea that you come into a position like this and it's full immersion and then you'll just kind of pick it up through osmosis, but it requires a lot of effort on your own part. And so I think the most that I've gotten out of the Spanish piece has really been just putting myself out there, like Carly said, not being afraid to make mistakes, and knowing that people are going to be really patient and kind and wonderful with you. So that's, yeah, from kind of the other side of the spectrum, it's definitely doable.
All right, so that'll be just a short break for questions, and we have had more questions in. We will get to those towards the end of the call, and then any questions that we don't get to, we'll be sure to send email follow-ups to everyone. But for now, let's go ahead and transition to Heidi, and she can tell us a little bit about the NICA site.
All right. So again, I'm Heidi. I am a program director here, and I am a 7-month program director. So I have been in Nicaragua since January of this year. Prior to my time here, I was working for a large nonprofit in the U.S., and I kind of just found Manna Project on a whim through like a random Google search, and it piqued my interest. I was looking for to volunteer for an organization that was not only impactful but sustainable, and that's what I found through Manna Project. I really enjoyed that the work that's done here is continued through years through different program director groups. So that's one thing that really stuck out to me. So I applied for the position, and the rest is history. I've been here since January. So about Nicaragua, a couple of the programs that we offer here. So again, we do have programs in health, education, and livelihoods, but I do want to highlight a couple. So one that I want to specifically focus on is our child sponsorship program. So I guess I should back up a little bit. In Nicaragua, we work in 2 different communities in Managua, which is the capital of the country. So we work in a community of Pedro Galan and Chiquilisagua. That is a community that is very close to where the Manna House is. It's very easy for us to get there and hang out in the community. And then we also work in a smaller community called Villa Guadalupe. It's a little further out into the city, and that's a little bit of a smaller community as well. So the Child Sponsorship and Nutrition Program works out of Villa Guadalupe. Residents of Villa Guadalupe were formerly residents of La Chudeca. And so La Chudeca was once the largest landfill in Central America. And so a lot of the families that live there now used to live there and were moved out in, I believe, 2014. And now they live in government subsidized housing. So what our program does there, we serve critically undernourished children and pregnant moms. Program directors, we provide weekly home visits, and Manna also provides health education through little seminars, and then also medical attention for the children and their families. And so then once a month, we have what's called Milk Day. And so we provide milk, oatmeal, beans, and vitamins to the children and also to the pregnant moms. And that comes from sponsors who contribute $20 a month to provide those materials and services to them. So it's a really, really wonderful program. You get to know the community really well just through the weekly home visits and meeting different families all over Villa Guadalupe. And so I know that's a really rewarding program for the program directors that are involved in it. Another program that's really close to my heart is our English vocational training program. This is a program that actually just started January or February of this year. So it's a brand new program. And so what we do in that program is we focus on higher level English speakers, not necessarily through our English programs, but just in the community in general, who are interested in working at a call center. So working in a call center is a huge opportunity here for many people in Managua and just in Nicaragua overall. It's a great way to bring in income on a regular basis. It's regular work hours, and it's just a really good opportunity. And so we focus on the skills that would be needed to work in a call center. So we've taught everything from listening comprehension to customer service skills, active listening, even down to, what to wear to a job interview, what to put on your resume, that kind of thing. It's been such an amazing experience getting to know my students throughout the semester. One of our students actually recently got a job, and he's settling into his work schedule, and it's just really cool to see how he's transferred the skills that he's learned with us to an actual real full-time job. And we have several other students too who are currently going through the application process and typing up their resumes and things like that. So we help them through that process as well. And so that's definitely a program that's very close to my heart. As you'll see on the list of programs, we do have a lot of other different programs. We do provide a preventive health clinic in both of our communities. We provide creative arts after school programs. We have a program called Camp Jam for children, and so JAM stands for Juegos, Artes, Music, Games, Arts, and Music. And so it's a really, really wonderful program in Pedro Galán where kids get to express themselves through play, through art, through music, and it's just a really good recreational activity for the young kids here. So yeah, that's a little bit about the programs that we offer. Again, there's plenty of programs that we offer here. So a little bit about Managua itself. So Managua is the capital of Nicaragua. It's the largest city. It's a huge hub for travel, for business. The Manna House is kind of on the southwest outskirts of the city, very near to Cedro Galán, like I said before, and the city sits on the banks of Lake Managua. It is, again, the largest city in Nicaragua, so that means it's a hub for travel, and so it's really easy for us to travel almost anywhere in the country from right here in Managua, so that makes it really convenient to explore the rest of the country. One really cool experience that I've had was visiting the island of Ometepe. That's an island made up of two volcanoes, one active, one not active, and it's just such an interesting experience getting to be on this island that's a little bit, the culture is very similar to the rest of Nicaragua, but there's also a lot of history in terms of Spanish colonization, and they have a lot of things like museums that go back thousands and thousands of years with artifacts, and it's a really interesting trip, not only getting to see the beauty of the country, but also getting to know the history as well. And it's also just really cool to see the volcanoes and know that you're next to an active volcano. It's a really cool experience. And then, so Carly did speak about the Despedida Bienvenida, and we also had ours I think it was about a week or two ago. So that was, again, a wonderful experience for all the program directors that are outgoing and also the program directors that are coming in. Just a really wonderful event where all of our community members came in. It was a bittersweet moment, but it was also a celebration for all that we've accomplished and all that's to come with our new program directors. And so it was just a really, really wonderful night. We got to really spend more time with a lot of the community members that we've grown close with. And that's something that we really value here as well, is just not only working in programs with community members, but getting to know them outside of that. A lot of us go and hang out in the community in our free time, do homestays. Plenty of families invite us over for dinner all the time. And that's just something that we all really value. And I think, at least to me, is the most valuable part of being a program director. And that's the one thing I'll look back on and say, that was the most rewarding part of being in Nicaragua for this time, and really just getting to know some truly, truly wonderful families and wonderful people. Yeah, so I guess that's what I've got here. I guess I'll open it up to questions about the Nicaragua site or in general.
All right, thank you, Heidi, for sharing that with us. We did actually have a question, and I believe this one can go to Heidi or Carly. For the nutrition programs, are there leaders and nutrition experts that you would be working with? Are you able to change some of the material? Do you get an input in making changes to lessons or curriculum?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just respond briefly for the stuff that we do in terms of nutrition on site in Ecuador, and then I'm sure Heidi has additional stuff to add for Nicaragua. So in Ecuador, we, as I mentioned, work with the Diabetes Club, so that obviously has its nutritional component. And within that, we work closely with the doctor at the Sangolquí Hospital that leads that, kind of organizes all the individuals that are a part of it. So he obviously is a great resource in terms of knowing about the specific nutritional needs of diabetes patients. But within the diabetes club that we run at the community center, that's extremely open to whatever kind of interest or knowledge the program directors have coming in. So for example, our country director, Nancy, has been working on expanding that program this year, and she has experience in leading different kinds of exercise, like Zumba and stuff like that. So she's been inputting kind of that knowledge in the program currently, but in the past we've had program directors that were public health majors or were pre-med majors when they were in college. So at that time, the program was focused more on the healthy eating side rather than the exercise side. But that's something where, depending on the interest of the program directors, they can definitely kind of take a leadership role in that. I think it would be really interesting if an incoming program director would want to write a curriculum for the diabetes club classes that we have, or something along those lines. In terms of nutrition education in Ecuador, we also work with children in a children's nutrition and cooking class that we do every week in the community center. So that's something as well. Program directors over time have kind of developed different ideas and things that they do with the kids, but if someone comes in with a strong nutrition background and would like to write a curriculum or add even more nutritional aspects, like the more the merrier. That would be amazing. And there's also room to grow. So if that's kind of one of the benefits of being a program director, if you come in with a really strong interest in a certain area, you can take the programs and run with it and expand them or add different aspects that you're interested in. So yeah, at least in terms of Ecuador, that is kind of where we're at with the nutrition stuff. But I'm sure I know the nutrition and health programs are run a little bit differently in Nicaragua, if Heidi would like to add to any of that.
Sure, yeah, I'll jump right in here. So I'll speak specifically to the child sponsorship and nutrition program that I went over earlier. So the question was, okay, so we work with the Via Guadalupe Clinic, the child sponsorship program. And so we have a social worker and a nutritionist on staff that offer a lot of help in terms of the health education for mothers and for families, and also with the home visits. There's also a program director lead on child sponsorship. So one program director in particular is responsible for just making sure documents are up to date, that program directors have their roles set up, that everyone has roles for Milk Day as well. As far as the curriculum itself that's given through health education, that is generally done by the staff at the Via Guadalupe Clinic. But in the child sponsorship program, with the weekly home visits, they just recently started doing program director weekly themes. And so each week when the program directors go out into the community and check on the families, there's a theme each week that they can choose. So that's something that's discussed with the program director lead. And so they prepare a list of different themes, like sometimes there'll be reading week, I don't know about sanitation and washing your hands, things like that. And that's very much open to change and to input. So so it is one of our programs that has the most program directors on it. I think almost all the incoming program directors are on the child sponsorship program this coming year. And so it's a really, really big program for us, especially in the Via Guadalupe community.
Heidi, we also had a question about the Adolescent Health Education Program. So could you just give a little bit more information about that program?
Sure. So our Adolescent Health Education Program is known as Generation. And so that's a class that's taught once a week by program directors, and it is there to inspire adolescent students that are interested in the medical field. So the class, they teach everything from body systems to diseases, everything that a student might need to know to prepare themselves for medical school. It is really, really difficult for students to get into medical school, and it requires a lot of outside preparation, outside classes and knowledge. And so the class is not only there to provide students with the knowledge they would need, but also to help them through the application process. So I know this year are talking with some local teachers who might be teaching a class specifically for one university on the things they will need to prepare for medical school. So where they're connecting with people in the community, with the resources that are available, and making those available to students as well. So it's a really wonderful program, not only for program directors that are interested in the medical field, but also in education. It's a great chance to really expand your Spanish, because the class is, of course, taught all in Spanish. So it's a really, really great program.
Great. Thanks, Heidi. So I'm going to go a little bit more into the fundraising obligations of our program directors. And once I finish up with that section, if we have some more questions and we have time left, we can continue to answer those questions. And if not, we can definitely follow up with you via email about the questions you've put in the slide. So going into the financial obligations of a program director, and that's actually, we've gotten a couple questions about that. So hopefully this part will answer some of those. So the amount of money that a program director needs to raise is dependent upon the amount of time that they spend on site. So we do have positions available for beginning as soon as September of this year. So that's an 11-month position, and it goes from September of 2016 to August of 2017. And the cost of that program is $750 a month, or $8,250 total. And then for our next available position, it's a 7-month position that will start in January of 2017. And the cost for that is $855 a month, or $6,000 total. And to go into what that cost covers, so it really covers all of the living expenses of a volunteer. So like I mentioned before, all of our volunteers live together in a house, so it covers our housing costs. It covers volunteer visa costs, meals, language school, travel insurance. Encompassed in that cost is also a weekly stipend that's given out to the volunteers. It covers a homestay, it covers professional development, and then quarterly retreats that our volunteers have on site. And the reason that the funding is really kind of different per month is that there are certain costs that are one-time costs. And when you stay on site 13 months, you can really divide that cost out more between each month. Whereas if you're staying for 5 months, it's a larger cost per month because you're not dividing it out among as many months. And going into some of the options and ways that our program directors have fundraised for the cost of their trip in the past. There are many third-party scholarships and grants available for folks who go abroad and do programs such like Manna Project. And we have a link on our website to different scholarships and grants that are available and out there. There's a lot of our volunteers have also used personal and social networks to raise funds, crowd fundraising sites. They've thrown events to raise funding to cover their costs. And all of the costs are not upfront. So we can go into the next slide of our fundraising timeline. So as you can see on here, it's kind of hard to see. I know it's really, really small, but we could also get this out to folks if you wanted it. Basically, you don't have to have all the funding by the time that you go on site. It's broken down what the minimum funds that you have to have raised are in this timeline based on the position that you're accepted to. So whether it be an 11-month position, a 5-month position, 7-month. And all of this is also detailed on our website, and you'll be walked through it if you do choose to apply. We have a lot of resources at our U.S. office for helping our volunteers raise funds. So we have a director of development who works with our program directors to help them raise fundraising. And then in terms of like keeping you on track for how you need to raise your funds and when you need to raise funds by, Haley, our financial director, can kind of help with that. And then to go into a little bit about our application process. Our application is online, and when you fill out the application, you also have to submit 2 references for us to reach out to, as well as a resume and transcripts. We're fine with unofficial transcripts. You don't have to send in official transcripts. So when you send in your application online, you'll be contacted to set up a phone interview within 2 weeks of the deadline. So the deadline for the September 15th application, for the September 15th start date, our application deadline is August 15th, which that's detailed on another slide. But we'll set up a phone interview with you within 2 weeks of that deadline. And you'll be notified of your acceptance status within 2 weeks of your phone interview. So it's a pretty quick process. And then you have 3 weeks to confirm your acceptance and submit a deposit of $500. And then I just wanted to kind of reference the fact that while we really do want our program directors to stick to the timeline we've set, we understand that life happens. And as long as you're willing to communicate and work with us about, what you're doing to raise funds and how you're working on coming up with the money, we'll work with you. And as I mentioned before, our upcoming positions, the 11-month position starting September 15th is our soonest position. And the application deadline for that is August 15th. And then some of you on the call might be interested in our positions that start for the 2017 to 28 program year. And those positions will be available, those applications will be up on our site in October. And then just to go quickly through accountability so that you know that our organization is legitimate, we do have lots of resources available on our website that show we are a nonprofit, so all of our financial statements are available online. And I wanted to leave it up to, we'll try to answer a couple more questions we've got about 7 minutes left on the call. So if you have any more questions, feel free to type them in the chat. You can always reach out to us as well through email or phone calls if there's anything that was unanswered while you were on the call. Haley, are there any other questions? Haley? Okay, so I see a question on here of, did the current volunteers get to select the country that they applied to? Our volunteers do get to select where you would like to go, which site would be your preference. We do have a capacity of 12 at each site. So if we're full at one site and we're not full at the other one, if you're flexible and willing to go to either, that's helpful. But you are able to choose which one that you would have a preference to go to. And then we also had another question of, is there an age limit for the program? There is not, but because all of our volunteers do live communally, that can be difficult for some volunteers who are a little bit older. So our average age of volunteers is about 22, 23, I would say. It's a lot of volunteers are fresh out of undergrad. So, when you are living communally, that is definitely something to consider. If you're not in that age range, if you would be okay with living with folks who are younger. And then we also had another question, a logistics question. If there's a way to get the PowerPoint, you definitely can. We'll email it out to everybody who's on the call right now. And then we also are planning on putting this recorded call on our website. So we should have that launched up and on our website by next week. And then let's see, our final question, is for Carly and Heidi, what do you plan to do after Manna, and how has Manna helped you?
Sure. So I'm Carly. I'm going to be moving back to the United States at the end of August. I'm looking to apply to grad school to do a master's in public administration degree in nonprofit management with a focus on international development. That was something that I had thought about previously before applying to Manna and coming to Manna, but during my time at Manna, I have gotten to experience and participate in so many different aspects of what a nonprofit is and how it runs, that Manna really helped me confirm that decision, the things that I was thinking about before coming. How has Manna helped me? Manna has helped me in so many different ways. I think that it is really an unparalleled professional development experience for people directly out of college. As I mentioned, I was looking at different nonprofit jobs before coming to Manna, but there's really nothing that I found, no other organization that offers as much professional development opportunities as Manna does. During my time with Manna, I've been able to participate in grant research, grant writing, volunteer recruitment and volunteer leadership, program development from start to finish, really just getting my hands in kind of every aspect of what it means for an international nonprofit to run. And that's just something that's been incredibly valuable to me. It's just been an incredible experience. I've been able to participate in so many different aspects of what Manna is, that I've just valued my experience with Manna so much.
Heidi, are you still with us on the call?
So upon ending my time here in Nicaragua, I'll be returning to the States later this month, and I've accepted a job as a program coordinator for a Chinese community center. So that's an organization that's very, very near and dear to my heart. And so I will be coordinating their program in SL, civic engagement, and immigration and citizenship classes. So that's actually something I imagined myself working at first, but after my time here at Manna, working with my students in the vocational program, it's really just opened up a whole new, realm of work for me. I've learned that I really enjoy working with adult learners, with like ESL programs, with things like that. And so that's been a really eye-opening experience for me. And so I think this position, being part of Manna has prepared me so much for what I'll be doing in this position. It's also, a small nonprofit, so I'll be helping out with things like grant applications and data tracking and things like that, all of which I've gotten experience doing here with Manna as well. And aside from just the position I'll be having, I think the lessons I've learned with Manna are really skills that you can take with you so much further in really so many different fields. And I think that's really neat too, that so many program directors have such a wide variety of backgrounds and interests, and that Manna is able to provide professional development and really, really important skills for so many different types of people. We have within my program director group, people going to medical school. There's people with social work backgrounds like myself, folks that majored in economics in college, just all different backgrounds. And I just think it's so cool that Manna is able to provide, skills training for all those different backgrounds. So that's kind of where I will be in over the next year or so, and I'm really grateful to Manna for all of the lessons that I've learned and all the skills that I've learned here.
Great, thanks so much. So I wanted to leave the call or end the call with some helpful links to, one, you can look at our program director homepage. We also have our detailed program director handbook online, our applications online, everything basically. We have a lot of resources on our website, mannaproject.org. There's a link to the scholarships that I had mentioned earlier, as well as you could see our alumni network and some of the great things that they're doing. And if you still have some questions after you go through that, or if there's anything that we didn't answer for you today, you can always email info@mannaproject.org, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And I just want to thank you all for taking time to be on our information session today. And I wanted to definitely thank Carly and Heidi for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on the call. And thanks to Haley for also being on the call. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.